Wanted to do a deeper exploration of Wiradjuri'yin. Extended remix of the issue with era roadblock. In my language, the flow would have to terminate here. This initial story does a good job of illustrating the scale of the block that I viscerally feel between your way versus my way. But at the Ra part, we're sharing a common stream. I can only go this way. I don't know if you can only go that way. Perhaps you can go through this way as well. And this is where part of the priority processing is up at the top. This era needs confirmation. Are you truly pronouncing that as an ira, or is it closer to a ra, we-ra, ura? And then we've got extra complication because of the Australis tongue. This ear tends to be a Y due to that non-rhotic issue with the R. We don't pronounce it. Let's do some samples like viral. Viral. I'm pronouncing that more like a viral. Mirage. There's like a mirage. Just do a search for English words that feature this era, and then you explore how you are pronouncing that R section. Because this is a ear, but in the culture, they're pronouncing it as a viral, not a viral. Mirage, this becomes very short. You might as well just do that. Mirage. Yeah, this is a little bit of a subject of its own, but equally important. This is the Australian root. This has to remain separate for now, even though it's connected to this stuff here. I have to resume where I was coming from. Era, you can go through. Ura, I can go through. But when it comes to this, let's separate our universes. This is your world. This is my world. In my language, I also have an ear, but I can't reach the ra. I'm roadblocked, and that's how it tends to terminate at the ear. So I hope that helps show some of the background of the flow through my lingo on why this ends up terminating. Or there's double tap pause at around that point. But in my language, it generally would have to terminate, and it's difficult to identify terminating R's when my acquisition of the mother tongue was compromised. I wasn't able to adequately fuse with roots correctly or completely, or the problem of certain words where I absorbed them as perceived roots, but they were actually carrying deeper roots that I was not aware of because people were not using the deeper roots as a part of their everyday speech. Visual communication wise, it doesn't look neat enough for me. I need to present or think about the hierarchy. There is a better way to communicate this visually. These are my raw notes. These parts here are common. Same. At that point just now, it felt like, arches, because you need a z-axis, and this type of conceptualization is difficult to express in the 2D paradigm. This ra part would be living in the dimension of depth, whereas these ones are more like that XY. Ra part would be working with the Z space. That's my vibe about it so far. Do I do that right now? I wanna, but I really had to move on with just going through the journey of priority indexing of how, when I'm approaching language, how I'm processing it through the Wombatistani portal. There is sequencing that has to be done in a certain type of order. I needed to go on with the notes like that. This drawing, I call that the first iteration. Yeah, let's go level 1. This here was level 2. Yeah, it's starting to get a bit more neat, a bit more coherent. And level 3 is likely to be a 3D extension. The terminating R, where I have 2 that have to process the I and the streams. Type of binary sorting, similar to a drone, but there's 2 notes to work with. It's about trying to find the harmony between those 2 different notes. As this is an ear, it would have to be terminating here. There is discordance already. through the topography, and I have to trust that when I see this, it's signaling it's because you've never ventured down this terrain before, and that's why they crashed. And when I see that, it's signaling to me that ear is long. Ear, not a short ear. Through my language, it has to be a long one. Wiradjuri'yin. Another complicating factor, which is a separate subject, but part connected to the sorting due to this issue here. Is this an era? Is this an ura? Or is the I an e? That's like a top level processing decision, and this is where it requires direct contact with speakers to clarify. There could be a oscillating e, where, werad. Churi, where, and on that ear equals Y, as I'm assuming transcriptions would have been done with a dominant Aussie speaking audience. I'm assuming that. Clarify. Are you guys actually doing that? Weirad. Churi, ear. Is it an ear? That's me trying to express how the Wombatistani portal is carrying vowel sets that are not recognized through the Australis tongue. I'm aware of that, and the Australis tongue can't pronounce a lot of them either. I know what happened to me when I grew up without critical visual representations of certain vowels that weren't assigned a visual representation, and the gap that it caused. The biggest one there is the a. When you don't have a visual symbol for it, it doesn't get a chance to breathe, even though it is inherently present within the spoken word. These notes were produced during the second iteration while scanning through indigenous languages. There's a certain level of priority necessary. This is like a revision of the ordering. The experience of applying it to another language is what propelled the need to start formally documenting. There was a point where the examination of the state of E, is that an U or could that be an A? I didn't realise that until later on. Just the usual process that I do when transcribing my work. I realised, this is a priority. It actually needs to sit towards the top. What struck me was how these languages carried states of recog for me that were very familiar. It was carrying many movements that were close, and I was able to gain through ways which were more immediate compared to Mongolian. Faced some Mongolian yesterday. It was, I need to calibrate with the vowel harmonics, and I could see there was significant distortion caused by Cyrillic mapping. When it comes to this index sorting, this is going to be important. Is Latin the primary visual communication system used to transcribe the language? Because if it's Cyrillic, I can't trust it. The reason why I can't trust it is if I don't know the language, I have no ability to detect the variations of sound being encoded to the symbols differently. I can only do that more confidently within the Turkic family of sounds, and Kazakh is the border language at the moment that I've been using heavily as a triangulator. But when it came to Mongolian, and I'm going to, how do I spell that in Latin? Because Cyrillic is a very dyslexia-inducing typeface for me, very difficult. I have assimilated some letters. However, that's been across a span of towards 5 years now, and I still haven't been able to absorb the entire alphabet, and that's because the only letters which I can absorb are only the letters which make immediate sense, where I don't have to think about it and I already know, and I don't have to go through, look, that looks like a P, but it actually is an R. Any type of demand on my processing, just like the computer, I can't afford that kind of bottleneck. It's an obfuscator. It needs to be discarded immediately. Like, go to quarantine. We have to examine your problematic state in more detail for autopsy. So this is where, with the indigenous lingos, Dharawal, Dhurga, Wiradjuri'yin, and Gumbaynggir, How does it sound? I look forward to hearing it from an actual speaker. When I face these strings of text, I know the Uru is because I grew up with it. Through the Kazakh tongue and the Cyrillic form, there's connection to NJ and the W. Kazakh becomes the last known physical geographical point where I observe a link, and that's number 2. Then I need to do a harmonic scan, checking the vowel harmonics. I saw this string of text. I saw features of vowel movement patterns that were familiar. I've already made notes about ambiguities. Not sure where does it come and emphasize. Wiradjuri'yin. This uri lives in this harmonic scan level. This is foreign, no through road for me, similar to the era. No through way. Clarification required. Are you pronouncing this as a uri or is it actually uri? Wiradjuri'yin. That's an u. Wiradjuri'yin. If it's an u, there is some passage and I can extend the vowel with the iri. We have the problem of the re sticking out like that. It's open-ended in my language. This section tends to get capped off with a e. Clarification required. Is that because this e is short, but if you finish a word with something like that, is that a ny or a ny? So this is the plane where the Latin fails to articulate those types of specifics which are critical for comprehension in my language, impact it dramatically depending if it goes this way or that way. Other states where I start to recognize, I'll need to check, is this NH another one? Because I can see it working like that. The DH and NG, clarification needed there. Was that supposed to be ligature? If that is the case, if this is another one of these sorts of formations, has to be a ligature. I can't process the language accurately when it's in an ambiguous two-part state like that. NY became another one. So this is like a stock take in this indexing bit. Document diversions. I'll just add stock take, hangnails, hiccups, these sorts of elements that lives up at the top end of the priority scale, stuff that has to be addressed first before I move on with the rest of it. A lot of these sorts of decisions that I have to make, although they are facing elements of uncertainty, I'm familiar with how there actually is certainty, but it's because through my language there's more than one way to tackle it. That's what's causing the issue. Here I know it has to terminate, but I'm also dealing with but this one could also be like that, and that uncertainty can only be clarified by the native speakers. Take note, this DJ here carrying the same signature as the ch, which exists and probably was shaped by my English in words like bitch, which, watch. The ch is caused by that J, which is this one here. This is where the j can equal a ch, it can equal sh, it can equal y. It's this line here has pretty much captured most of it. The DJ is the equivalent of the ch, because in my language that D can be a T, and that J is currently swinging either towards the ch or it could be a y. It can be any of these really. It can be a shuri, wirat, shuri. I just want to signal I do have the ch as well. Wirat. Churi has to be an it's not an it's an That's the only way I can get through. When I say there's no W in my language, but because of the English, I'm conscious. So it is in the English half, and then later on within the Kazakh Cyrillic half of the spectrum, it does exist. However, its function is vowel and consonant. So how are you pronouncing this part here? Is it a Wiradjuri'yin? Is there some kind of a hangnail just before you approach the W as a consonant? Clarification required there. And through my language, the only closest through way for that is through the V. And in my language, that V pretty much a B. That's why in a lot of my work, you're gonna see me saying var, bar at there, and that's how if someone says a var or a bar, it means the same thing, even though people spell it different. The var still means a bar, same thing. And that's the complication of what happened to my language, as it got funneled through the Cyrillic and the Latin. So this W, they're always through, but from my language, the entry point is coming through this type of a direction due to no W, versus yes, there was a W acquired after the mother tongue, and that's why I'm aware of it, but complicated because it could be an ura, and that's problematic because we're gonna have words like ur in my language. That word is gonna exist within this sort of a section. There, ira, ura. There's no ira. It needs to terminate. Let's terminate it with the ear. Let's just test it. Yes, it's working because the alignment is near enough close. That's signaling, yeah, that's because the articulation of this state was carrying an element of this one. However, I've got words like gerçek. When I pronounce gerçek, this ek often sounds like an ik. Gerçek, gerçek, gerçek. I've already done an exercise of hitch is the same as a hitch. Hitch is a hitch. Let's go for English, where you've got a hitch and then you got a hedge. Some people are going to be sensitive and they're going to be able to hear, see, feel it. Hitch, hedge. And due to various accents of English, this hitch is going to sound like a hedge. What's the difference? Hitch, hedge, hitch, hedge, hitch, hedge, hitch, hedge. That's what causes the oscillation between vowels. That's the phenomenon I'm tackling in my language. That's why I had to create that, because that was my awareness. Is that an et or an et? And that's the interim symbol to signal yes. So when I say gerçek, the convention of the spelling is like that. Pronunciation wise, hearing wise, the language of my hearing is going to hear it as a check, 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 just like this hitch, hitch, check, 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 check. And in my language, I have the ik as well. Cheik, gerçek, gerçek. Trying to shovel in between those two. So here you can see that is a lot more evolved compared to this state here. That's because its frequency is more common, and I've had time to tweak the kerning, etc., to make it fit a bit more nicer. But in here, it's like a new level, still under development. That's how I can trust the visual communication, because when there is outright that doesn't work at all, I trust it. It's consistent. This is a relatively new creation, terminating R, still experimental phase, trying to work out a good way through for it. That's working. And just because I incorporated this TCH in there rather than something like that changes meaning another level. Ver aç, açure, açure. This aç to mean open, clarify. Ver aç, açure, ver aç, yürü. Although there is passage like this, the tongue, the harmonic is actually swinging towards the ire, jure, ver aç, yürü. That is a brief overview. First iteration. Let's go to the second one. That's me processing it through that AI, oscillating vowel issue, trying to find the passage through into the ura, yeah, it actually terminates there again. It actually terminates there, and that's without the air, and so that becomes more of a beer instead of a vir. An extender, normally I use the Chinese shovel for this, but currently, as you can see, the kerning is crashing. So that is signaling, yeah, we have a knot in there, it needs ironing out. As I progress with my language, I will find through ways for that. It could be that through my language it's working, but through another one it's not, etc. Still needs time to evolve. And this is without using a dictionary. If I used a dictionary, this would be even more acute, because the dictionary would be introducing me to the lingo. I never got to fuse with lingo outside of my primary use. However, that is mostly foreign unless it's carrying harmonics that are close to home. I can't do this with Mongolian yet. Not possible. I'm able to look at this text here and go, yeah, I can give this a go. But when I face Mongolian, it's like, whoa, curveball here. Just because of passage of vowels. Able to recognize it like that. The body feels it. It's a physical, very brief tap on the Mongolian passage. What caused that awareness? Here we are. There's our Mongolian diversion. Mongolian trail. In Turkish we have the suffix la, le. But I became aware of Mongolian could be carrying similar, but their balance was something like that. I'm not sure, have yet to confirm it, but as soon as I saw this la le versus la lo, it's like it's because of the I already know in order for me to even begin the paradigm, I have to travel through Uzbek, and that's not one of my primary triangulating lingos at the moment. It's like a quaternary level, it's a emergency level use at the moment. I need to spend time calibrating with Uzbek vowel harmonics before I can reach the Mongolian. And with Mongolian, it requires more detailed semantic level analysis, because in the spoken language I'm hearing that Turkic echo very prominently, and the way they've spelt it in the Cyrillic is a mismatch to how I hear it, and I have to go through the distortion of Cyrillic converted into Latin, which is incorrect, it's wrong. And my journey with the Mongolian text transcription, I gotta sit down, listen to the language, and then spell it according to how it would be done phonetically in my language here. So I hope that helps with just an outline of how my alphabet and the way it's applied to my language. This is the part where I'm starting to annotate, do these sorts of changes with different types of priorities, and it's just amazing how these indigenous soundscapes are closer to me compared to the Mongolian, and that's signaling there was a roadblock. I'm guessing it's the Himalayan type of epic. Not sure if a Great Wall of China could have been another part of it, but it is like a wall that doesn't let you in. The experience definitely feels like that through the language itself. The signals just drop out. And I know between the Turkic versus the Mongolian soundscapes there was considerable shape-shifting, even though the drones in the language, the core drone is carrying a similar type of tone. That'll do, pig, that'll do.
Bir şiir daha var, okuyayım mı? Yeter! Adım Ayşe! Yerli